Hey guys, John here. I hope you're all doing well. As you can see, today we're going to compare these two awesome amplifiers by Diezel Amplification. The Diezel VH2, which I got probably last year or so, and the Diezel VH4 that I got recently. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So strap yourselves in, grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's compare these two marvels of German amp engineering. So this is of course the legendary VH4. This amp has been in production for years and it has been used by many famous artists like James Hetfield from Metallica, Adam Jones from Tool, I think also Weezer, Muse, and bands like that. So it's a legendary amplifier. 100 watts. They both have EL34s, by the way. They both were made very recently. And I think they prefer EL34s at this point because of the reliability overall. But yeah, this one of course has 4 channels. Channel 1 is clean, channel 2 is crunch. Both channels 1 and 2 have a bright switch. And channel 3 is your hot rodded high gain tone. And channel 4 is your over the top high gain tone, your lead channel basically. Each channel has a gain and a volume control. And then in the master section, we have one volume control, a presence, and a deep control. This amp has a loop for each individual channel and also 2 main effects loops, series or parallel. It's a fully packed amplifier and it has a very unique and distinct tone. The VH2 is much more stripped down. It only has 2 channels, also with gain, volume, and 3-band EQ controls. Of course, also the presence and the deep controls in the master section, and this one has 2 master volume controls and just 1 effects loop. And as far as I understood, this was basically meant to be the little brother to the VH4. So with channel 1, you can get the clean or crunch tones that the VH4 has to offer with channel 1 and channel 2. And with channel 2 on the VH2, you can get the gain tones that channel 3 and 4 have to offer basically. But in a couple of videos, they did say that the clean channel on this amp was based on the Paul amp by Diezel, and that the gain channel was sort of voiced a little bit differently, a little bit more modern. And I can tell you right now, they definitely do not sound exactly the same. Sonically, they definitely share DNA. They both sound like a Diezel, but they sound pretty different and more different than I was expecting, to be honest. I will say that they both sound great. They both sound massive and they both are a joy to play through. Let's just go ahead and get started. A couple of details. Both the amps will be fed through my RedSeven Amplification Amp Central reactive load for all the tones, and I'm using the exact same impulse response for all the tones in this video, which is the ML SoundLab Mega Oversized Almighty IR, one of my favorite IRs. It's based on a Mesa Boogie 4x12 rectifier cabinet loaded with V30s. Okay, now the clean tones on the VH2 are some of the best clean tones I've ever heard. So it's going to be interesting to see if the VH4 can match the beautiful tones of the VH2 when it comes to the cleans. For the clean comparison, I'm going to use my ESP LTD Phoenix Deluxe 1000, the red one with the Fishman Fluence modern pickups in it, on the Alnico neck pickup, which is kind of my favorite pickup for clean tones. And yeah, let's see how this sounds and how they compare. Take a listen. Interesting. So as you heard, they definitely do not sound the same. Wow, the clean tone on the VH2 is just so beautiful. I love it so much. It's a little bit more gentle, a little bit more chimey and scooped than the VH4. I must say that the VH4 also sounded really beautiful, but a little bit more mid-focused and a little bit more pokey, if you know what I mean. So for my personal preference, I do love the clean tone on the VH2 a little bit more, but I could definitely live with the clean tone on the VH4. Now, I did have to lower the gain on channel 1 for the VH2 quite a bit to match the cleanness of channel 1 on the VH4, and I did enable the bright switch on the VH4 as well. So that was already interesting, and yeah, they definitely don't sound exactly the same already. Now we're going to do a sort of classic crunch tone with a Les Paul. And so we're going to compare channel 2 of the VH4 with a nice crunch setting. So a nice cutting and punchy sort of British crunch tone. The bright switch will be off this time. And then on channel 1 of the VH2, we're going to crank the gain up all the way and see how close we can get. Take a listen. Again, interesting. Not the same, that's for sure. This one has a lot of cut and a lot of punch and a lot of definition in the mids. And this one sounds a little bit more compressed and smooth and has a little bit less gain and also a little bit less bite. But of course, you have to compromise with an amp like this since we're doing this with one channel so far. They both sound great. I do prefer channel 2 on the VH4 here. It's just more articulate sounding and has more definition and more bark, if you will. Again, they both sound really good. Now we're going to do channel 3, the channel that none of you have been waiting for. On the VH4, obviously, it's a legendary channel. It's the one that people use the most. And we're going to try some heavy rock / metal riffs with a Gibson Les Paul Custom. And I'm going to use some settings that I like to use on these amps with the mids up not too high on the VH4. Crank the bass, crank the treble a little bit, add a little bit of deep and presence. And then on the VH2, I'm going to try to match the settings by ear a little bit. So let's see what happens here. Take a listen. wow, again, interesting. They don't sound the same. They definitely don't. Again, the VH4 has a nice cut and bark and definition to it. Kind of more martially in a way than the VH2. So the VH2 sounds a bit more scooped, a little bit more modern, and a little bit more polished, if you will. Maybe a little bit more compressed. And there's something about the attack of the VH4 that is very unique. Sort of snarly and snappy and wild and uncontrolled. And that's a sound that I've never heard on any other amplifier. The VH2 does that a little bit to an extent, but it's more rounded off and again, more polished sounding. So that might be the cause why a lot of people will prefer this amplifier perhaps, because this one is just so wild and outspoken in terms of the character and in terms of the volume envelope. Very interesting, very interesting. I do think that I prefer channel 3 on the VH4 this time just because of the unique and outspoken character that it has. But the VH2 definitely isn't bad, but they definitely don't sound the same here. Now let's go to channel 4, the high gain channel on the VH4. Let's try some metal tones with active pickups. I'll grab my Schecter PT SLS Elite with the Fishman Fluence modern pickups in it as well and drop C on the bridge pickup. And yeah, I'm gonna get a nice and chunky modern tone out of this and try to match it with the VH2 as well. Let's take a listen. Okay, similar differences as before. The VH2 definitely does not sound bad here. I love the VH4 though. Again, it has that aggression and that more unique character and the bark. Yeah, really, really cool how snarly and how angry this sounds in comparison to the VH4, which again is a bit more polished, a bit more smooth sounding, a bit more scooped. So yeah, it's very interesting to see how they both differ in terms of tone. I mean, this definitely isn't the same as the VH4. So if you're going to buy this amp, you're going to get a similar tone, as you heard. It's going to have that VH or Diezel DNA, but it's definitely a different sounding amp than the VH4. The VH4 is so raw and uncontrolled with that very unique volume envelope on the pick attack, especially when you dig in very hard on the VH4. Of course, this also has all the features, 4 channels. I mean, if you want to have a bunch of different tones for playing live or in the studio, you can't go wrong with this amplifier. It's so cool. And then if you want a more affordable amp with less options, but still a very wide palette of tones for your studio use or 2 channels for live, then the VH2 is also awesome. And of course, quite a bit more affordable than the VH4. So I really enjoyed this comparison. I think I'm going to keep the VH4 because it's just such a legendary amplifier, but I think I'm also going to sell the VH2 now because I need room in my studio, let's be honest here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd love to know. Also, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, as that really helps the channel out. And if you want to support this channel, you can buy something at my affiliate links. I'll post them below for Tomon and Sweetwater. And then you get to support the channel at no additional cost for you, which is awesome. I'd really appreciate that. Of course, you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram and check out my Ko-Fi web store where I sell captures for the Quad Cortex and stuff. All right, this was fun. See you guys soon. Cheers.